What's up guys, KPlays here. Welcome to part 3 of my Iceborne hunting horn set guides. This time we'll be going over the elemental hunting horn setups, and it's been a while in the making because it took a lot of testing to figure out which horns were the best for each element. I wanted to make sure I covered all the bases when sharing my top picks because unlike back in World, elemental hunting horn is no longer just a gimmick. There have been a few changes and additions to Iceborne that all add up to make it stronger than it's ever been, but it's not just usable or even just competitive for high damage. No, against the right monsters and with the right setups, it's actually possible to outright beat the raw damage setups. You're hearing that right. There are cases where the current number 1 horn rasping ballad isn't the number 1 damage option. Want to see how? Let's go through the info I've collected over the past few weeks. So why is Element actually good now? Well, to start off, the elemental attack up skills and critical element set bonuses have been buffed in Iceborne, improving the power of elemental damage focus sets. That's a solid boost for every weapon, but if Hunting Horn had the same lackluster elemental options it had in World, it'll still be raw all the time. Luckily though, we now have a selection that's much stronger in comparison to what we had before. The stats and songs on these now allow for some solid damage potential, especially when paired with the most important tool for this strategy, the Echo attack. With this move, we finally have a decent damage option fast enough to pump out a lot of hits in a short amount of time, which is exactly what you want for racking up elemental DPS. Using that move frequently, with stronger elemental horns that have boosted element from buff skills, well, that's a recipe to let you match the damage output from pure raw horns despite Hunting Horn technically being a more raw favoring weapon. Having more choices with high damage potential is great for variety, but there's a small catch. You can't just take these out on any old monster fight and expect to do just as well like you can with pure raw horns. These will only shine against monsters weak to their specific element, while using armor sets that play to their strength. Let's get to the current top picks so you can all see the hidden powerhouse that is Elemental Hunting Horn. Starting with water, we have a clear winner in the Laguna Drum. At first, you might think that Namiel, the Water Elder Dragon, should have a better water weapon than an early game monster like Koropuke, but that's not the case here. This is a prime example of why it isn't as simple as just picking an element boosting song list and calling it a day. After using its ample amount of augment slots and custom mods, Laguna already has comparable water damage to even a song boosted Hydros. Add on easy to reach purple sharpness and attack up XL to further boost your attack power, and Laguna solidly beats out Hydros in every way. If you're fighting anything water weak, this will outright be the best horn to go with over pure raw because that extra elemental damage really adds up. You can even change up your augments to go all in on attack boost to fight slightly more raw weak monsters and it'll still pump out a ton of water damage. It's pretty much the perfect elemental horn. Moving on to ice, we have another easy number 1 pick. Returning from the top raw horn list, we have Sonorous Ice Build. Interestingly enough, Volcana's Hunting Horn actually has the lowest ice out of our existing choices, but the reason why it gets the number 1 spot is because it also has the highest raw damage potential. Both Barioth and Shrieking Legiana have higher elemental values, but neither has enough attack power to quite snag that top spot. Take a horn that's good in any situation, tack on some elemental damage against a monster weak to it, and you have yourself something that can use that added advantage to edge out over the competition. It's one of the reasons why Deviljoe's Hunting Horn did so well back in World, but now we can use that extra damage even more effectively. For fire, we have pretty much the same situation with the Glavenus Horn. Anjanath and Gold Rathian are both able to reach higher fire than Glavenus, but outside of element, it's better sets and songs let it take the lead. Its one downside is that it needs a good bit of handicraft to hit purple sharpness. That extra sharpness level is definitely something you're going to want if you can get it, because purple offers a higher elemental damage boost than white, and you want all the extra power you can get. Those extra points of damage can be the difference between just coming close to, matching, or outright beating the raw damage setups. Now against the right monsters, some of those higher element choices can do slightly better. Personally, I go with Barioth and Gold Rathian if you want to switch up for ice or fire. But more often than not, the higher raw choices like Velkhana and Glavenus will get the best results in their respective niches. The last 2 elements are where things are going to get a little less clear cut. From here, we'll have 2 options for each that work just as well in different situations. For Thunder, we have a surprise underdog on our hands. Initially, I thought that Fulgurating Horn had an easy victory here. Tons of augment slots, custom mods, a strong song list, a nice bonus in the form of 20% base affinity, raw that's not too bad. Everything about it screams best niche horn for Thunder weak monsters. But then I came across the Kirin Hunting Horn. At first, the Thunderwhale Fane Horn was as forgettable as they come. It's not really built like your typical good horn. The damage leads entirely towards element and it isn't great on the raw side at all. Luckily for it though, the Iceborne changes set it up for success in a big way. When fully boosted in an ideal setup, this thing hits a whopping 1260 thunder, enough for it to actually not need attack up or high attack power if you're fighting the right monster. Against monsters with better raw hit zones, Fulgur can win out, but Thunderwhale does much better against high elemental weaknesses. That's why these 2 tie for the number 1 spot. Unfortunately for you electric guitar fans, Zinogre's Horn can't quite compete with these because it doesn't have attack up or a high enough elemental value to not need it. Finally for Dragon, we have another familiar face from the raw hunting horn list, Austere Paradise. Shara's Horn is popular as a general purpose choice, but with the amount of hidden dragon it has, we have a rare case where free element is actually a much better damage boost than non-elemental boost itself. Solid stats across the board and a well-rounded song list give us a great pick, and having Dragon Echo Waves in its song list is a further bonus when it comes to pumping out damage. For pure damage potential, it's the strongest dragon horn we have right now, but against monsters that can inflict dragon blight and take away your elemental values, it's another option we can use. Like Thunderwhale, the Dragon Seal Aldhorn has a high enough elemental value to do decent damage against dragon weak monsters despite not having attack up. Shara still hits harder 9 times out of 10 and has a much more attractive song list as well, but what gives Dragon Seal a spot on the list is the ability to negate Dragon Blight. You can always add Dragon Resistance to your Shara sets, but Dragon Seal gets it for free between its Dragon Resistance and Elemental Effectiveness up songs, which gives it a spot on the list for now. Now there is a slight possibility that one or both of these might end up outclassed when Stygian Zinogre arrives in December, and that Mystery Elder Dragon could possibly be a new contender for any of the top lists. I'll be sure to update you guys ASAP if either of them brings us a horn that replaces anything we've already gone over. With our current best elemental options out of the way though, let's talk armor sets. When building our sets for these horns, we have two main choices here, a critical element mix set or a true crit element set. Namiel's gear isn't something we'll use here because it just adds 60 to 150 element when the set bonus is activated. For Hunting Horn, the crit set bonuses multiply your elemental damage by 50 and 70% respectively, which is much more effective for these types of setups. As for what you want to use, that's going to depend on your priorities. True critical element sets are always going to be stronger, but requiring 4 pieces of Silver Rathalos gear is a pretty heavy investment. Crit element only requires 2 pieces of Elkana gear, leaving you room for another 3-piece set bonus. The most effective choice here will be using 3 pieces of Teastra gear for Master's Touch, since frequent echo attacks will tear through your sharpness bar without some sort of maintenance skill. With Silver Rathalos sets, your only option for that will be using Protective Polish for a minute of infinite sharpness after sharpening. It's slightly more forgiving if you happen to miss weak spots every now and then, but you'll have to sharpen every minute or so if you want to stay fully maxed out. It takes a bit of time to get used to sharpening again if you've been heavily using Master Touch sets, and some monsters might not always be nice enough to let you sharpen when you need to, but again, the reward is hitting much harder. In longer fights or ones where you don't want to take many breaks in the action, the Teastra Volcana mixes offer more consistency. Either method works, it's really just a matter of better damage versus less sharpness upkeep. You're pretty much locked into one or the other here to make Elemental Horn work well though, because without one of these set bonuses, most of these horns will lose their competitive edge. And with that, there you have it, all of Iceborne's current best horns along with complimentary set suggestions, all wrapped up into 3 short and sweet guides. Check out the other guides for raw and status horns if you haven't already, so you can see our full musical arsenal. We have a pretty big list of strong usable choices now, which will be great for switching things up every now and then if you feel like it. We're still early in Iceborne's run as of when this video drops too, so there's still a chance for that list to grow as new content gets added. Whether it's a single new addition like with Deviljo and Rajang, a new siege with a ton of collectible loot like Holteroth, or something that brings us a unique twist like with Lunastra, I'll definitely be covering anything new as it comes our way. I'll be doing some hunts with what we have in the meantime, so be sure to subscribe to catch that hunting horn action when it comes out. Till then though, this has been another KPlays, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.